You're listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes right here on episode 19 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We got a lot of things to talk about on this week's edition of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Of course, we are going to be talking about CM Punk, and CM Punk being described as a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. I have a lot to say on that, and clearly, in my opinion, with the reaction about this whole news coming around social media, a lot of people are not believing this story, and rightfully so. We're also going to be giving you guys my preview and predictions for this Sunday's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. Of course, Forbidden Door is going to be absolutely stacked, and it's going to be a fantastic show. Of course, we have Bryan Danielson taking on Kazuchika Okada. We also got Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega for the IWGP United States Championship. We're going to be talking about the AEW Collision ratings, because the Collision ratings are out, as well as the Dynamite ratings. LA Knight talks about his character at the time when he first came up to the main roster, Max Dupree, and you guys will not believe the reason as to why WWE put him as a manager in the main roster last year. It's going to be absolutely hilarious when you guys hear me talk about this. Seth Rollins, of course, defended the World Heavyweight Championship against Braun Breaker this past Tuesday on NXT, and Seth Rollins drew huge numbers for the NXT program, so we're going to be talking about that. We got an update on Carlito and much more right here on episode 19 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, if you guys had missed it, the AEW Dynamite review is up on the channel. Of course, I talk about Danielson and Kazuchika Okada going face-to-face before this Sunday's Forbidden Door. Overall, I thought this was a great go-home show before Forbidden Door for AEW Dynamite. Overall, great show regardless. We had great matches, as well as, of course, CM Punk's Dynamite return, building up to Collision this Saturday. So we're going to be talking about that and much more on the Dynamite review. The link will be in the description below, as well as the Raw review. The Raw review is already up on the channel, and I talk about Logan Paul being announced for the Money in the Bank ladder match, and why I believe Logan Paul should not win the Money in the Bank ladder match. So if you guys haven't checked out the Raw and Dynamite reviews, the link will be in the description below. All right, let's get straight on with episode 19 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. In our first story, we are going to be talking about CM Punk versus Kenta. Now, as you guys know, CM Punk versus Kenta was actually scheduled to be happening at this Sunday's Forbidden Door pay-per-view, but it looks like Kenta and CM Punk is no longer planned. In a report by Fightful Select, Kenta and CM Punk are no longer facing each other at New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW's Forbidden Door pay-per-view, at least as of this past weekend. Fightful Select has learned that Kenta expressed to New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW that he isn't facing CM Punk at the Forbidden Door show, as word started to make around Collision this past week. As of the first episode of Collision, AEW was considering who CM Punk should face at Forbidden Door, or if he will be even re-wrestling at the show. New Japan sources had confirmed to Fightful that Kenta and CM Punk had been planned for the event, but as of this weekend, it wasn't happening. Fightful wasn't given any reason as to why, but we're told that by the time Kenta had tweeted, quote-unquote, Kenta versus Punk is never going to happen, that was in response to him actually being out of the match. Based on what we've heard, Punk is open to the match, and there were other options being evaluated for him as of Saturday. When Fightful spoke to New Japan Pro Wrestling sources about Kenta, they confirmed that most top New Japan Pro Wrestling talent were booked for other opponents, though not officially announced. Fightful has been told that there was big AEW program plans for Kenta to set up the program. Satoshi Kojima El Phantasmo, and Jeff Cobb have all been pitched internally, as well as we've been simply having Punk being a part of the broadcast as an announcer. There were adjustments made to AEW programming this week. Of course, Ibo from WrestlePurist highlighted on Twitter, CM Punk is backstage at AEW Dynamite and is planned for the show. As we reported this past weekend, to clear up confusion, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and of course were never planned for the show, and there were pre-tapes done well before Collision, and it wasn't reactionary based on the Collision promo. So it looks like CM Punk versus Kenta is not going to be happening. Honestly, I'm not really that upset about this whole situation. It clearly shows that Kenta was the one that backed out of the match. For whom we know, could it be money reasons? Could it be an ego thing? I have absolutely no idea. But I remember talking about this, a couple of weeks ago on the WrestleHavoc podcast. It'd be a great match for Forbidden Door, and it would only stack up the card more. But as of right now, it looks like Kenta versus CM Punk is not going to be happening. And we do know CM Punk is actually going to be wrestling at Forbidden Door, and he's actually going to be wrestling Satoshi Kojima in the quarterfinals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. To be quite honest with you, Kenta versus CM Punk not happening. It's not that big of a deal. Forbidden Door is already as stacked as it is, so I really do not view this as a major problem when it comes to, Forbidden Door and the status of CM Punk. Now, when it comes to the Owen Hart Cup tournament, I mean, from Punk's side, from the one side of the brackets, Punk is in the one side of the brackets as well as Samoa Joe. It clearly shows that Samoa Joe and CM Punk are going to be running their feud back, and they're going to be wrestling in these semifinals. And from what it looks like when you look at the brackets of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, CM Punk is most likely geared to win that match as well. But as far as Forbidden Door goes, CM Punk and Kenta is completely off the table. That match is not happening, and it looks like CM Punk is going to be wrestling Satoshi Kojima because that match has been officially announced. All right, now we're going to be talking about the whole drama regarding CM Punk because this is actually going to be our top story of the entire show. A top guy apparently left the building in a bad mood and described CM Punk as a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. We're back with the drama, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with the drama. I'm reading this article from WrestlingNews.co, but the original source is Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and I already said my piece. You guys know in that extra that did roughly over 3,000 views, so thank you guys so much for all your enthusiasm on the comment section, because there was a lot of comments in that video. A lot about this whole fucking topic. A lot of mixed reactions as well, which is hilarious to see. CM Punk is back in AEW after making his return on last Saturday's premiere episode of AEW Collision, where he opened the show with the promo, taking a shot at quote-unquote counterfeit bucks before headlining the show. He made a surprise appearance on Wednesday's episode of AEW Dynamite to set up his match this week on Collision. Before the show, it was reported that due to the show being in Chicago, the hometown of CM Punk, AEW president Tony Khan decided not to have the Elite, that being Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, to appear on the show live, and there was a lot of reports about that. The Elite was not at the show. They filmed a backstage segment, I believe, prior to Collision, so they were not at the building at all. As previously reported, the issues between those in AEW who do not like CM Punk and Punk have not improved following his interview with ESPN and his return promo. I'm going to have to disagree about that because if you think about it, his ESPN interview, though it was edited, I believe it was edited, it was still monitored by AEW, and not only that, it wasn't as bad as a lot of the dirt sheets were making it out to be. It was said that the divisiveness has become worse over the last week, and I believe that was a quote by Dave Meltzer because he did have an interview with John Pollock of Post Wrestling, and he talked about how the drama got way worse in AEW, and I'm like, what are you talking about? The drama? What drama? Because if you really think about it, there was a report that came out by Fightful that stated the backstage reaction when it came to AEW Collision was fairly positive. So honestly, if you really think about it, is there really drama going on regarding CM Punk? I honestly believe that the whole drama, all this, just spewed bullshit is just, at the end of the day, being over-exaggerated. And this is what pisses me off all the time. But in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported that one top star in the promotion is fearful of the ticking time bomb. And they put it, ticking time bomb, regarding the issues leading to another incident. Meltzer wrote, and I quote, One top name noted to us that they went home after the show on Wednesday in a bad mood, and even with the key people kept apart and not on the same shows, described the fear of this being a ticking time bomb that will not have a happy ending. Okay. What the hell does this mean? From the start of the talks, the idea of bringing back Punk was separate from him to those who have issues with him and vice versa, thus building collision around him on a different roster. Okay. I talked about this weeks ago. If you guys do not remember when the first rumors about Collision were starting up, and there were rumors about AEW splitting up their roster, but they were going to split up their roster for all of the wrong reasons. And those reasons were to, keep people separate from their particular situations. Basically stating the Elite and CM Punk are going to be kept separate from one another. That is basically what I implied after reading that Fightful report months ago. And now somebody is describing this whole situation as a ticking time bomb. Now, what do I think about this? I think this is over-exaggeration on Dave Meltzer's part. Now, am I saying that he's making shit up? No. I do believe somebody in AEW is feeding this bullshit information to Dave Meltzer. I could easily come on here and say, it's fake news on Dave Meltzer's part. But at the end of the day, if you really want to look deeper into the scenario, somebody in AEW is leaking all this information and causing all this fucking drama in AEW. Who that person is, I have absolutely no idea. You could easily point at the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. But there was an update on their contract status, and they were told to be, kept quiet. They were told to keep quiet on their contract status, and primarily the whole situation regarding CM Punk. So I know for a fact probably it's not them, but somebody is spewing this fucking information, and it's ridiculous. Now, I want to read you guys this tweet, and this was a tweet I read from @BackupHangman from Wrestling Purists or Wrestle Purists on Twitter, and he brought up a good point. And if this is true, what this guy said on Twitter, I'm even going to clip this. I'm going to clip this and post it on Twitter so he can hear this. He tweeted, @BackupHangman on Twitter. He stated, and I quote, and he's from Wrestle Purists, if you as a grown man left your job in a bad mood because another guy did a 30-second run-in on a show he was asked to be on, and this was so upsetting that you ran to cry to Dave about it, that should disqualify you from being a quote-unquote top name. Who the fuck is this guy? Clearly, this guy is not a top name. Clearly, we do not know who this guy, left the building in a bad mood because of CM Punk's run-in in which he was told to be a part of. Again, CM Punk and the Elite are causing division within the AEW locker room. But again, who is this guy that left the building so pissed off and described the whole situation as a ticking time bomb? Why does everything that is so positive in AEW have to end up being so negative with a lot of these fucking reports? Why? Everything that Backup Hangman stated on Twitter is absolutely true. Should you be considered a top guy if you're so upset that CM Punk is coming back and he's on Dynamite? What the fuck, man? This is so fucking stupid. This is ridiculous and childish at the end of the day. It's childish. It's dumb. Why are we talking about this? First off, Dave should stop talking about CM Punk, because I talked about this in the extra that I did. A large portion of the drama that is going on in AEW stemmed from a lot of the reporting from the dirt sheets. That is basically the biggest takeaway from this whole situation. The dirt sheets, in my opinion, started all this bullshit. And it may not be a scenario of them making up stories, because I don't think they would damage their reputation like that, even though you got guys like Eric Bischoff, who ran WCW, that would say a lot of shit like, oh my God, Dave Meltzer made up this story, blah, blah, blah. You would hear on Jeff Jarrett's podcast stating, hey, look, Dave was probably fed false information, blah, 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 all this type of stuff. Somebody in AEW is feeding bullshit information. Do I think this is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode? Absolutely not. Just fucking stop with the drama and do business. Period. Just do business. It's that fucking simple. Every time when CM Punk is involved with something that you want to be positive, the next day, some sort of negativity just comes out in the fucking reports. This is just hilarious at this point. And you know what's even funny? The reaction on Twitter is the same. Like everybody on Twitter that read that quote by Dave Meltzer saying, "Oh, somebody told me that. Oh yeah, this whole thing is going to be a ticking time bomb. It's going to be, it's going to be a very bad ending at the end of the day." Everybody is seeing through the bullshit. Everybody is literally just saying, "Oh my God, yeah, this is just a flat out lie. This is ridiculous. This is just dumb. This is just stupidity on all parts." Tranquilo Club. I have a tweet by Tranquilo Club right here, and this is hilarious. And I'm a big fan of Tranquilo Club. If you're watching this, probably not. Shout out to Tranquilo Club. The women of AEW handled their locker room tension like professionals by holding a meeting. Meanwhile, grown-ass men in the same company are crying to dirt sheets because, quote-unquote, I went home in a bad mood. The opposite of top guy behavior. Again, I have to agree. Whoever this guy is clearly not a top guy because you're not acting like a top guy. If this is true and you literally went to Dave Meltzer and said, "Oh yeah, all this stuff, I'm such in a bad mood because CM Punk is back and all that stuff." That is the opposite, bro, of top guy behavior. If you're a top guy in this business, you shouldn't act like that. Seriously. The dumbest shit ever I've heard in a long ass time. And throughout the past 10 months, ever since this whole situation escalated in September, I've just seen stupidity after stupidity after stupidity after stupidity after stupidity. It's hilarious at this point. Who the fuck is considered a top guy by going to Dave Meltzer and stating, "Oh yeah, I'm just in a bad mood because of all the shit that's going on"? Is that really top guy behavior? Really not. Tranquilo Club said it best. Backup Hangman and Tranquilo Club literally are top notch when it comes to this whole story. This whole story is bullshit. And I mean this with the utmost respect to Dave Meltzer because I like Dave Meltzer. He's been in the game for years. People think Dave Meltzer just appeared out of nowhere. No, Dave Meltzer has been in the game for decades. Same thing as Brian Alvarez and the rest of the dirt sheets. But Jesus Christ, bro, can you stop talking about CM Punk for fuck's sakes? Somebody in AEW, whoever it is just spewing bullshit. Somebody. Like, stop. Like, bro, you're escalating shit that doesn't need to be escalated. It's ridiculous. Can we just shut the fuck up and just enjoy what's going on? We're on the verge. AEW's on the verge to selling out Wembley Stadium. Do you honestly want that to go away? What the fuck? Just shut the fuck up for fuck's sakes. This is ridiculous, bro. This is like, it just pisses me off, man. It just pisses me off all the time, man. Every time CM Punk does something, there's always some sort of negativity. I'm starting to really be on Punk's side with this. Like, again, this whole situation is stemming from a lot of the shit that the dirt sheets are saying. And I hate being the guy to say, "Oh, it's the dirt sheets' fault," but I'm really on the verge of being that type of guy. Look, a lot of the situations that stemmed was because of all the bullshit that was reported by the dirt sheets. Period. And a lot of people are pointing the term smear campaign against CM Punk. At this point, I'm starting to believe that. And I hate to be the guy to say it, but at this point, whoever is saying there's a smear campaign against CM Punk, are they really lying? Are they really lying? 'Cause I honestly don't think they are. Like, bro, really? Really? You went home in a bad mood because of all the shit that's going on, and it's going to be a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Go fuck yourself. This is the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. All right. Moving on. We got more bullshit to talk about, actually. Moving on. We got a update on the Elite's contract status. Got backstage news on their status with AEW. Of course, we all know that the Elite are, negotiating new contracts. Now, Dave Meltzer reported in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that the Elite had been asked to keep quiet about their contract status. Meltzer said, and I quote, all have kept quiet as asked, or in some cases, has signed legal papers basically prohibiting them from talking, which could lead to immense frustration with the situation. Honestly, could there be frustration? I don't know. But, I mean, I do think the Elite will re-sign with AEW. I do think they will. But it would be such a bad look if CM Punk is the catalyst to this shit. Just think about that. The Elite leaving AEW because of the drama spewing with CM Punk. Just think about that. Just think about that ideology and that analogy. Just think about that. We're leaving because of CM Punk. I don't know. A lot of people are even accusing the Young Bucks of probably spewing this information to Dave Meltzer. I mean, bro, their finisher is the Meltzer driver, for fuck's sakes. It's very easy to point the finger at them, and and I'm not going to point the finger at them, but it's very easy to. But I'm not going to be one of those guys that point the fingers at them because, again, this is just stupid shit that didn't need to happen. At the end of the day, this situation is the most stupidest piece of drama I've ever heard in my life, all because of Colt Cabana. It's all because of Colt Cabana. That is it. Colt Cabana, a guy that is not playing an integral part in AEW right now. As what's his name? Bobby Fish on that episode of Impact where like nobody was in the arena. Where's the lie? Where's the lie? Where's the lie right there? But yeah, that's the mini update right there on the Elite. We got the AEW Collision ratings. They do strong numbers for CM Punk's return. I'm reading this article from Forbes. AEW Collision drew roughly around 816,000 viewers for its debut episode on Saturday night, doing a .33 in the 18 to 49 demographic. The return of One Bill Phil saw Collision finish number 3 on cable. If you really think about it, it's not really that bad of a number. I predicted roughly around 900,000, almost 1 million viewers, but clearly I was, in a way, over-exaggerating. They did 816,000 viewers, and the show was positively received by critics, fans, and even Warner Brothers Discovery. According to PW Insider, sources from Warner Brothers Discovery were actually very happy about the reports from AEW Collision. Speaking of Collision, we have heard from Warner Brothers Discovery sources that the company was thrilled with the broadcast audience and the overall engagement for the first episode of the series. Great. At the end of the day, what's important is making the networks happy. And I'm glad Collision is treated the way it is. Collision should not be treated like Rampage. At the end of the day, we all know Rampage is not that good of a show. You know, it's not because of the fact that it has bad wrestling. No, it has great wrestling. Most of the time, Brian, like Tony Khan be booking his dream matches on Rampage. But the problem with Rampage is it's just not as equal as Dynamite. It's not treated with the same importance as AEW Dynamite. Collision is the opposite. Collision is on par, if not possibly on the verge of being the successor of Dynamite. And I'm going to go out on a limb and possibly say we could be possibly on the verge of having Collision being the flagship of AEW. I know that sounds like a bullshit statement. I know it does, but you never know, man. I mean, bro, you had people like Eric Bischoff who criticizes AEW every fucking episode of his 83 Weeks podcasts all the time, praise Collision because how different Collision was. If you have guys like Eric Bischoff praising the show, you clearly are doing something right. You just clearly are. So good on AEW. You know, it's not the rating that I expected them to have, but you know what? For Warner Brothers Discovery standards, on a Saturday night where you have a lot of competition and ending number 3 on cable, it's not a bad number whatsoever. So good on AEW. AEW Dynamite. The ratings are up for Forbidden Door, roughly around 900,000 viewers. I'm reading this from F4W Online. Wednesday night's episode of AEW Dynamite averaged roughly around 902,000 viewers on TBS. It's up 8.4% from the previous week. The viewership number is virtually identical to what Dynamite drew 2 weeks ago when the show went up against Game 3 of the NBA Finals. It's the second lowest audience total for the show since May 24th. In the 18 to 49 demographic, Dynamite drew a .33 rating, which is up 10% from last week. That tied the episode from 2 weeks ago for Dynamite's best number in the category since February 22nd. Where the show placed on cable charts isn't currently known yet. Overall, great number for Dynamite. Of course, it was the go-home show before Forbidden Door, and honestly, Forbidden Door is going to be a fantastic show regardless, so I'm definitely excited for that. All right. In our next story, we're going to be talking about LA Knight. You know, the megastar himself, LA Knight. Yeah, let me talk to you. LA Knight talks about Max Dupree and talks about the concern that WWE management had over his age, hence to basically the reason as to why they made him into Max Dupree. So, Knight stated in an interview with the Daily Mail that WWE transitioned him to a manager's role due to concerns over his age. And in a quote by LA Knight, he stated, and I quote, "I come up for a dark match, and I get the attention of the right people. Hey, who is this guy? But then the age thing comes up, whispers, oh no, he's 40, danger. But I'm not the average 40-year-old man. I haven't gone through the ringer. I haven't had a bunch of surgeries or injuries. Knock on that wood. I lived a good, youthful life in a certain sense, and I've taken care of myself in a way that I would say most don't. Sorry about that. And also, I look a certain way where obviously I've got somebody's attention, but that number came up and it was like, well, okay, maybe we make him a manager. So some things happened there. It was not my cup of tea, and I definitely don't think it was for me. But somehow, there I was. Some things happened that we don't need to go into, and then eventually LA Knight was back. So apparently, the main reason as to why LA Knight was turned into Max Dupree, of course, the chairman or the boss of the Maximum Male Models, was because of his age. Because he's like, 40? Meanwhile, that shit was so embarrassing that as soon as Triple H took over, within weeks, this man was like, you know what? Fuck this shit. We're giving you guys LA Knight. You know, it's very hypocritical from the previous regime on WWE's part. Very hypocritical. You know, they transformed LA Knight's gimmick because of his age. Meanwhile, these are the same people that had Goldberg beat The Fiend and buried The Fiend in Saudi Arabia. And how old is Goldberg? Roughly in his 50s. Once again, as Bobby Fish would state, where's the lie? Very hypocritical on WWE's end. You know what's funny too is like WWE was concerned about age with LA Knight, and that's why they changed him into Max Dupree. Bro, if you think about it, LA Knight is exactly what WWE would envision a wrestler. He has the look, he has the physique, he has the charisma, he has the promo ability, he has everything. He has control of the fucking audience. So the fact that WWE was concerned about his age is laughable to me, because these are the guys that talk about, reaching that brass ring and, charisma, all that stuff. Bro, LA Knight embodies everything that WWE would want in a star. And the fact that they thought that about LA Knight is hilarious to me. It goes to show you how out of touch these people actually really were when they were running things behind the scenes in WWE. But it's just funny to me. It really is. It's the funniest shit and the most hypocritical shit that I've seen in a long ass time. All right. In our next story, we got WWE Fastlane. Yes, WWE Fastlane has been announced in Indianapolis, Indiana on October 7th, 2023, and it will take place from the Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. And it will mark the first premium live event to emanate from Indianapolis in 7 years. WWE Fastlane will stream live exclusively on Peacock in the United States and the WWE Network everywhere else. So WWE has announced Fastlane. I'm excited. I mean, when it comes to WWE pay-per-views this year, especially ever since Triple H took over, WWE pay-per-views have been nonstop bangers. If you honestly disagree with me, then clearly something is wrong with you. WWE has hit home run after home run after home run in pay-per-views. And if you really think about it, a large portion of that has to do with going to all of these many different international markets. They went to Cardiff for Clash at the Castle. They went to Montreal for Elimination Chamber. They headed to the UK next week for Money in the Bank. WWE has a specific strategy when it comes to their pay-per-views, and that strategy is absolutely working. Now, WWE, I know ever since y'all came back to the road after, COVID-19 and everything, y'all haven't gone back to Jersey. Please, can you guys come back to New Jersey? Either do a SmackDown show or a pay-per-view there. No Raw. SmackDown or a pay-per-view there. Please. Please. I would love to go. But nonetheless, we got Fastlane happening in October. They're adding more pay-per-views. Hey, look, at the end of the day, at least it's not a gimmick pay-per-view. One of the biggest edicts from Triple H ever since he took over the creative realms is taking away pay-per-views that do not mean anything. Pay-per-views like Hell in a Cell, TLC. Those types of pay-per-views they abolished because they make no sense. And bringing back shows like Payback and Fastlane, it's a great decision on WWE's end at the end of the day. And WWE pay-per-views have been flat-out bangers, with Roman Reigns on the card or not. They have been fantastic shows. Backlash was fantastic for what it was. I absolutely loved Backlash. The crowd in Puerto Rico was off the charts. Money in the Bank is going to be even better. WrestleMania was fantastic. Elimination Chamber was a fantastic show as well. So honestly, if you really think about it, WWE is definitely moving forward with these pay-per-views, and they have a specific plan in place, and they know what they're doing. So you got to give them props for that. All right. After that, Ricochet. Yes, Mr. Ricochet says that Vince McMahon is still involved with creative. I'm reading this from 411 Mania's website, but in the article it states, in an interview with Sporf, Ricochet confirmed that Vince McMahon is still involved with WWE Creative and says stars still ask him for advice. Triple H has been the head of creative since last year. Even after McMahon returned to the company, McMahon said at the time that he wouldn't be, quote-unquote, in the weeds with day-to-day operations. Ricochet stated, and I quote, Vince is still involved and Vince is still talked to. He's still someone that everybody looks up to, especially with creative, so he's got his fingers in everything too. I think Triple H and everybody in creative is just trying to do the best that they can in bringing out the best in who they have. They're trying to work with everybody's strengths. I think that's something that Triple H has always done. They wanted to grow the brand as much as possible, whether it's Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. They're trying to highlight the strengths of everybody, and I think it's been great so far. Everybody sees the popularity of the brand now, so they want to just expand it as much as possible. I think what they have been doing recently with everybody has been great. Everybody has been going out there and giving it their all, end quote. So Ricochet basically states that Vince McMahon is involved with creative. Look, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, like, Triple H's run with creative has been amazing and perfect. I will say this, though. Ever since Triple H ran the creative realm of WWE per se, ever since the summer of last year, the WWE product has been significantly better without Vince McMahon. I think that's pretty much the case. And we all know Vince McMahon forced himself back into the company in January of this year. And we know what happened on the Raw after WrestleMania. They basically gave us the worst Raw of all time. They gave us literally the worst Raw of all time. Shit right there made no sense. Do I think Vince McMahon is involved in some aspects with creative? Yes, and there's been reports that backed it up, with Vince McMahon changing a couple of things before the show even starts. Vince McMahon being in Gorilla. If Vince McMahon is not involved, why the fuck is he in Gorilla? Clearly, Vince McMahon is involved in some way, shape, or form. Is he involved with everything? Absolutely not. I think Triple H definitely has his hands on a lot of things, but there's some aspects of WWE television in which Vince McMahon is definitely, involved with. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the Raw side of things. When it comes to SmackDown has been enjoyable, but if you really think about it, I do believe Vince McMahon would make some changes on the SmackDown show as well. But regarding the Bloodline stuff, if you really think about it, I believe the Bloodline stuff is solely Triple H. That's what I think. That's just my opinion at least, but the Bloodline stuff has been really compelling. And if you honestly do not think that storyline has been compelling, then something is clearly wrong with you. That is my opinion. But again, Vince McMahon, do I think he's involved in some aspects of WWE? Absolutely. He's involved in some aspects. Triple H is involved with some aspects. I don't want to say a clashing of ideologies, but there definitely is some sort of clashing of ideologies when it comes to Triple H and Vince McMahon. Because if you really think about it, Triple H has a different philosophy of wrestling than Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon has his own style of wrestling, and he has his own vision of what wrestling should be. Triple H is the complete opposite. Triple H wants wrestling to be on the show. He wants more longer matches on television, and he wants more compelling storytelling. If you really think about it, Triple H wants to take inspiration from places like Jim Crockett and old WCW angles and stuff from the 80s and apply it to the stuff from now. That would be, in my opinion, Triple H's ideology because he's a wrestling fan himself. But Vince McMahon has a different vision, and Vince McMahon's vision is not Triple H's vision, and there can be some conflictions there and there. But do I think Vince McMahon is going to be is involved in some aspects? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think it's the right thing? Absolutely not. I think he should just stay retired. But it's Vince McMahon's company at the end of the day. The sale with Endeavor hasn't transpired fully. But Vince McMahon is an employee of the company now, and he has to answer to somebody. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens down the line. But, yeah, Ricochet basically confirmed to everybody that Vince McMahon is involved in creative in WWE. NXT viewership sees a huge increase for Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker. Of course, this past Tuesday on NXT, Seth Rollins defended the World Heavyweight title against NXT's Braun Breaker. I actually did not watch the match. I know a lot of people that do not watch NXT on a weekly basis actually did watch the match. I actually go out on my way and actually watch the match because I heard a lot of good things about the match. But NXT viewership sees a big increase, and the quarter rating that they drew for this particular match was huge. Damn near 1 million viewers. I'm reading this from Wrestling Inc.'s website. WWE loaded up Tuesday's NXT, the first episode since the NBA and NHL playoffs ended, with the main event of Seth Rollins defending his World Heavyweight Championship against Braun Breaker. As of late, NXT has been showing positive ratings, momentum, and last week's show, which aired opposite the Stanley Cup clinching game, he held steady nonetheless. Jesus Christ. Only dropping week over week within Nielsen's 10% margin of error. So with less competition, how did the first of back-to-back Gold Rush specials do? According to Showbuzz Daily, as well as WrestleNomics on both their Twitter and Patreon pages, the June 20th NXT averaged 773,000 viewers, which is up 33% of last week. Approximately 300,000 viewers, of which were in the key demo most valued by advertisers, adults age 18 to 49, up 46% of last week. Now, what's crazy is that roughly the quarter hour for NXT did roughly around 900,000 viewers, which is damn near 1 million viewers for NXT, which is absolutely insane to see, man. It clearly shows that Seth Rollins is a draw. Now, do I think this is going to be the formula going forward for NXT? I hope to God not for a lot of people that watch NXT, because that was a strategy they tried to do when they went head-to-head against AEW. How do we beat AEW in the ratings? Oh, yeah, let's not do things NXT, and let's bring main roster guys to NXT. I think they found their formula, and they're going to be going full-fledged with that formula. But now, when you think about it, everybody, the discourse on ratings on social media is hilarious. Everybody would be comparing the NXT ratings to the Rampage ratings, and they're comparing the quarter hour of Seth Rollins defending his world title against Braun Breaker to, the Elite's quarter hours of Dynamite, which is hilarious to see because people have nothing else to do with their lives. But the highest quarter rating on Dynamite this past Wednesday was the concession stand brawl. And to be honest with you guys, that was my least favorite thing on the show. That was my least favorite thing on Dynamite, in my opinion. And that was the highest rated segment of the show. And that did more numbers, actually, than Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker, which is hilarious to think. But again, the discourse on ratings is the funniest shit ever because, again, people have nothing else to do with their lives, and all they want to talk about is numbers. They all want to talk about numbers. Meanwhile, they don't talk about how NXT did higher ratings when it was Black and Gold NXT 2 years ago. But nobody wants to talk about that, right? Nobody wants to talk about that. NXT did lower numbers with 2.0. I think we all know that for sure. NXT did lower numbers with NXT 2.0. People talk about how, people are more successful now when they go to the main roster. Yeah, you want to know why? Because Triple H is in charge. That's why. When people went up to the main roster when Vince was in charge, he had no fucking idea what to do with the talent. Absolutely none. But look, congratulations on NXT. They did roughly 900,000 viewers in that quarter hour with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. Great. Seth Rollins is a proven draw. And you know what? You love to see it. I'm absolutely happy about that. Seth Rollins is great. One of my favorite things on WWE television. This guy is super over with the audience. How can you not like Seth Rollins? I'm not going to be one of those people that just absolutely just shits on everything on both AEW and WWE. Fucking relax. Jesus Christ. These people want fucking wrestling to fail at the end of the day. Wrestling is thriving now. And you fucking people are just wanting to ruin it. The funniest shit ever, bro. It's hilarious. All right, but after that, in our next story, we got Carlito's WWE return. His return is reportedly set for the SmackDown at Madison Square Garden. Former Intercontinental Champion Carlito received an electronic response from the fans at WWE Backlash in Puerto Rico, and recent reports seemingly confirmed that the second-generation star has signed a new deal with WWE. According to PW Insider Elite, Carlito is set to return to WWE on Friday, July 7th, meaning that his comeback is less than a month away. And also, he will be returning on WWE SmackDown, which makes total sense because Carlito's comrades in the Latino World Order, Santos Escobar, Cruz del Toro, and Zelina Vega, Joaquin Wilde, and Rey Mysterio, were drafted to the Blue brand as part of the 2023 WWE Draft. Carlito made a surprise appearance at Backlash in early May, helping the Grammy winner Bad Bunny defeat Judgment Day's Damian Priest in a San Juan street fight, which was a fantastic match if you really think about it, alongside fellow WWE legend Savio Vega. After the match, Carlito and Vega made their allegiance in the Latino World Order known. Carlito had intentionally said he was quote-unquote open to whatever following the surprise appearance and was later spotted in Orlando, Florida. Reportedly, he was there to speak with WWE. Carlito teased confirming the rumors at a recent House of Glory event, saying the rumors are true, but then making it clear that he was talking about it in his match with El Hijo del Vikingo. So Carlito's on his way back to the WWE. Great. Carlito is in fantastic shape at his age, and him being involved a part of the LWO, sign me the fuck up. One of my favorite things on WWE television right now regarding the Bloodline, besides the Bloodline, I should say, is the LWO. The LWO, in my opinion, even though it's kind of dying down a little bit, it kind of brings that cool factor in it. And it kind of brings a lot of casual fans in. You clearly saw what happened in Puerto Rico at Backlash. It was phenomenal stuff to see. You love to see it. All right. After that, we're going to be talking about... Let's see. Let's pull up the next story. Jesus Christ, my phone is like going crazy, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get on all this craziness regarding the WrestleHavoc podcast, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen to the WrestleHavoc podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. Jeff Hardy won't be on AEW television for a while once again. Jeff Hardy has been getting his legs underneath as of late after his longest in-ring absence in his life. But he's not going to be performing on AEW television during their trip to Canada. Fightful Select has learned that Jeff Hardy is unable to get to Canada due to his arrest and was written off of television as a result for the time being. Hardy and his brother Matt lost to the Guns and were beaten down by Bullet Club Gold after the match. CMFTR Ricky Starks then came there after, setting up their collision match. Hardy has worked a couple of televised matches after returning, but also performed on live events during the AEW House Rules Tour. AEW has 8 straight deals in Canada and doesn't return to the United States until July 19th episode of Dynamite in Boston at the TD Garden. And it's possible AEW can do or will do pre-tapes with Jeff Hardy. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious at this point. Jeff Hardy, of course, has a series of legal problems. I mean, we all know what happened last year. I don't want to really get into the specifics, but I think it's pretty obvious, with AEW going to Canada, they take that shit way too seriously with, the amount of arrests that Jeff Hardy has had with the DUI arrests. So he's going to be out for television for a while, and honestly, it's not going to really affect the show. I feel like the Hardy Boys in AEW had kind of ran its course, and it really happened before it even got off to the ground, in my opinion. So I'm not really much looking forward to Jeff Hardy in AEW, but it is what it is. Jeff Hardy is not going to be on AEW television for a while because, of course, AEW has their long Canadian tour. All right, after that, we got Bryan Danielson being a little too banged up. And top AEW star has been working banged up. And according to Fightful Select, they stated, and I quote, "You may have noticed Bryan Danielson has had a very limited in-ring schedule throughout 2023, and there is a good reason for that." Fightful Select has learned that Bryan Danielson has been banged up as of late, and there were some spots limited to his AEW Double or Nothing 2023 Anarchy in the Arena match as a result. Prior to the match, Danielson hadn't worked since the 60-minute Iron Man match main event for the world title at AEW Revolution in March. Danielson has instead worked commentary for the Blackpool Combat Club matches while largely avoiding contact in the many brawls that have happened during that time. Danielson has also been heavily involved and creative in the first several weeks of AEW Collision. It's pretty obvious that AEW is working their hardest on protecting Bryan Danielson at all costs because they know that he's going to be wrestling Okada this Sunday at Forbidden Door. Protect him at all costs. Do not have him, physically get involved with anything. Yes, he did have Anarchy in the Arena, but that was kind of minor. But again, very smart on AEW's behalf to protect Bryan Danielson because, of course, they don't want another situation like last year in which they had Bryan Danielson get injured, and of course he was supposed to wrestle Zack Sabre Jr., and that match ended up not happening, and instead we got ZSJ taking on Claudio Castagnoli, who was debuting with the company at the time. So, honestly, very smart on AEW's part. I think it's very smart on their end, and hopefully Bryan Danielson can just deliver a fantastic match for Forbidden Door against Kazuchika Okada. All right. Now, we are going to be going through the preview and predictions. My preview and predictions for this Sunday's AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. I'm possibly going to go out on a limb and say that this is probably going to be the best AEW pay-per-view of the year. I said this last year as well with Forbidden Door. At the time, the best pay-per-view last year for AEW was Revolution. But Forbidden Door completely blew away everybody's expectations, considering the fact that the build for the show last year wasn't as good as, a lot of people thought it was going to be, and it was not really AEW or New Japan's fault. It was because of the fact that a lot of their plans got fucked up because of all the injuries that were going on. But now, AEW has literally everybody, and this card is absolutely stacked to the point where, possibly, most likely, this show will top last year's show. And the atmosphere in Toronto is going to be insane. Now, we're going to be going through this whole card, and it's going to be a great card regardless. But in the pre-show, or in the 0 hour, we got ROH Women's Champion Athena versus Billy Starks in the Owen Hart Cup Tournament first round match. Now, what's very interesting is that Athena hasn't been on AEW television. Of course, Athena is the current Ring of Honor Women's Champion, and she has been going on a tear as the ROH Women's Champion. Of course, she is the top female heel in the company. And overall, it's clearly obvious that Athena is going to be getting the win. Why would you have your ROH Women's Champion lose to somebody like Billy Starks? That's all I'm going to say about that. But obvious, Athena is going to be advancing to the semifinals. CM Punk is going to be wrestling on this show, and he's going to be wrestling Satoshi Kojima in the Owen Hart Cup Tournament first round match. It's going to be very interesting now. Originally, we all thought it was going to be CM Punk versus Kenta, but that is not going to be the case. And now we got CM Punk versus Satoshi Kojima. CM Punk is going to be going over. I think it's pretty obvious for that, to say the least, because if you look at the brackets for the Owen Hart Cup Tournament, it's fairly predictable, but I will say the semifinals, from what it looks like on Punk's side, most likely Samoa Joe is going to get his win, and we're going to be getting CM Punk versus Samoa Joe in the semifinals. That is going to be a match I definitely want to be seeing. I am so excited for that, but CM Punk is going to be advancing, and most likely CM Punk will be involved and will win the Owen Hart Cup Tournament. We got Orange Cassidy taking on Zack Sabre Jr. versus Katsuyori Shibata versus Daniel Garcia in a four-way for the AEW International Championship. Of course, Orange Cassidy has been on a tear as the International Champion, and honestly, this match could go either way, but I do see Orange Cassidy retaining the AEW International Championship. I do not see, Orange Cassidy losing to a New Japan guy like Zack Sabre Jr. or Katsuyori Shibata. Could it be a scenario in which he drops the belt to Daniel Garcia? Maybe, but I do not see that happening. If you want Orange Cassidy to drop the international title, it has to be against somebody very, very, very credible. And I view a guy like Roosh to be that guy to do it. But for this four-way match that's going to be happening at Forbidden Door, Orange Cassidy will be retaining the AEW International Championship. After that, we got Toni Storm versus Willow Nightingale for the AEW Women's World Championship. I think it's obvious that Toni Storm is going to be retaining the title. I do not see Willow Nightingale getting the win, even though Willow Nightingale is going to bring up a great fight against Toni Storm, because Toni Storm is a great in-ring wrestler, as well as Willow Nightingale. I mean, the matches that Willow Nightingale has had in AEW have been great, but I think it's pretty obvious Toni Storm is going to be retaining the Women's Championship. Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, that being the Blackpool Combat Club, teaming up with Konosuke Takeshita and Shota Umino, will be taking on Hangman Page, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, or the Hung Bucks, you should say, teaming up with Eddie Kingston and Tomohiro Ishii. Very interesting matchup. Now, is this going to be the blow-off for this whole Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club feud? No, it's not. I think it's obvious that we're going to be leading towards blood and guts. This is not the blow-off. So either the heels get the win in some fucked up, fuckery, or the babyfaces get the win, or, John Moxley, or the babyfaces get the win and the heels proceed to attack the babyfaces, which leads to Kenny Omega coming out, or maybe not Kenny Omega coming out because he has a match with Ospreay, but a guy like Kota Ibushi coming in for the save. We have no idea. But due to the nature of the circumstances with, Double or Nothing and Anarchy in the Arena with the Blackpool Combat Club winning, it's fair for me to say that the babyfaces will get the win, but I have a small gut feeling that John Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler, Konosuke Takeshita, and Shota Umino will be getting the win. And then, of course, that will drag us into Blood and Guts in a couple of weeks. Now, Blood and Guts hasn't been officially announced, but it's pretty obvious that that is the next match in this whole blood feud between the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club. So my pick to win this match, the Blackpool Combat Club. Sting, Darby Allin, and a mystery partner who will be revealed tomorrow night on AEW Collision takes on the Suzuki Gods, Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki. Now, who is this mystery partner? We have no idea. My best bet, it's definitely somebody from New Japan. Some people were pointing out dudes with attitudes. Some people were pointing out, Tetsuya Naito. Now, I do not know what Tetsuya Naito's status is with AEW. I don't know if he's injured or not because I do not follow New Japan. But if it's Tetsuya Naito, it makes total sense considering the fact that Tetsuya Naito has some history with Chris Jericho. But again, who could the mystery partner be? I have no idea. But I will say Sting, Darby Allin, and the mystery partner will be getting the win over the Suzuki Gods. And then we will be leading to Chris Jericho turning on Sammy Guevara, in which we get Sammy Guevara basically, getting eliminated from the JAS, and then we have a one-on-one feud with Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Sonata versus Jack Perry for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. Honestly, this is the most random match out of all the matches in Forbidden Door. Sonata basically stated on Dynamite that, he offers an open challenge, and when you think of open challenge, you think of a mystery opponent, but, of course, Jack Perry immediately accepted that challenge a couple segments later on that same show. Sonata's winning the IWGP World title. Do I think Jack Perry's going to look great? Absolutely, but there's no way in hell Jack Perry is going to be winning the IWGP World title. There's just no way. MJF versus Hiroshi Tanahashi for the AEW World Championship. This is Hiroshi Tanahashi's second attempt at the AEW World Championship at Forbidden Door. Of course, last year, Hiroshi Tanahashi wrestled Jon Moxley for the AEW Interim World title, and it was a great closing match for Forbidden Door, and of course that led to Moxley winning the match, and then leading to the Punk feud. But what are my thoughts on this match? It's going to be a great match regardless. I love MJF's character and just talking shit about New Japan, calling it a rinky-dink indie fed from Japan. The funniest shit ever, man. Everything that makes I talked about this constantly, but everything that makes MJF great is the reason because of the fact that, Jesus Christ, I don't even know how to speak. The reason why MJF is so good is because he embodies everything that the typical AEW fan despises. He's everything WWE. And that is basically the whole takeaway from this whole thing. MJF clearly does not like New Japan Pro Wrestling. And he's going to be wrestling Hiroshi Tanahashi. Look, man, I talked about this before and I'll say it again. MJF is going to make Hiroshi Tanahashi look like $1 million. And Hiroshi Tanahashi is going to make MJF look like $1 million. I shit you not. MJF, in my opinion, is a master seller in the ring. This man will sell his ass off against Tanahashi. And it's going to be great. But who is going to be retaining the title? MJF will retain the AEW World title, and the reign of terror will continue. Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. A dream match, everybody is saying. And rightfully so. This is a dream match everybody has wanted to see. We could be on the verge of having possibly the best match throughout this whole decade. And I mean that wholeheartedly. The crowd is going to be fully invested in this match. Okada is going to bring the best out of Bryan Danielson. And Bryan Danielson is going to bring the best out of Kazuchika Okada. Now, who's going to be winning this match? That's the question. I honestly do not know who's going to be winning this match, to be quite honest with you. It could really, if you think about it, go either way. Bryan Danielson could get the win, or Okada could get the win. I wouldn't have a problem with either man winning the match. It's not really a right or wrong scenario, in my opinion. This is a dream match that everybody wants to see, and whoever loses this match will look 10 times better because of it. That's how good this match is going to be. And honestly, if I were to choose somebody, I'd pick Bryan Danielson to beat Kazuchika Okada in this match at Forbidden Door this Sunday. After that, we got the main event, or supposedly the main event. Kenny Omega taking on Will Ospreay for the IWGP United States Championship. Of course, it is their rematch from Wrestle Kingdom this past January, of course, in which we had Kenny Omega return to New Japan and win the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. Now, we had Will Ospreay, or Don Callis, meeting up with Will Ospreay last week on Dynamite, or this past week on Dynamite, basically asking for, security, or, offering security to Will Ospreay, because the amount of heat that Will Ospreay is going to be getting in Canada is going to be astronomically insane. We know that for sure. So it's going to be very interesting to see what is going to be happening. But who do I see winning this amazing match? Because we know this match is going to be amazing. This is probably going to be the match of the year, in my opinion. Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay are going to fucking tear the house down in Toronto. They're going to steal the show. But there's only one logical person to win this match. And it's not Kenny Omega. It's Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay needs to get his win back, and he will be winning the IWGP US title. And most likely, he will align himself with Don Callis. I may be wrong. But if Don Callis showed up with Will Ospreay, something fishy about that, so I assume that's going to happen. But overall, Forbidden Door is going to be a phenomenal show, probably the pay-per-view of the year, in my opinion, for AEW. And to be quite honest with you, man, the matches, holy shit, this card is fucking stacked. And I am 100% excited. And a lot of people that have been criticizing Forbidden Door are going to look real stupid when this pay-per-view is over. All right. Now, Jesus Christ. About Money in the Bank, and I literally went to the Money in the Bank section of this video, but apparently I did not add the Money in the Bank photo to it. But I'm going to be running down the Money in the Bank card. Money in the Bank, of course, is going to be happening next weekend, and we're going to be running down the card real quick. I'm not going to be giving my predictions. I'm going to be giving my predictions next week on the show. But we got, of course, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. We got Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, LA Knight, Butch, Santos Escobar, and Damian Priest versus Logan Paul. We got the women's Money in the Bank ladder match with Zelina Vega, Zoe Stark, Becky Lynch, and Io Sky, Bayley, and Trish Stratus. The World Heavyweight title is on the line as Seth Rollins will be facing against Finn Balor. We got Cody Rhodes taking on Dominic Mysterio, and Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa versus the Usos in the Bloodline Civil War. You absolutely love to see it. Now, that is everything I got for you guys right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. But we got one more thing. I'm going to be adding a new weekly segment to the WrestleHavoc Podcast, and that segment is going to be called the Retro Match of the Week. Retro Match of the Week is where I give you guys a classic match recommendation and why I think it's a match that you guys should check out if you guys haven't already checked out that match. In this week's Retro Match of the Week, my match recommendation is probably my favorite TNA match of all time. And no, it is not AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe at Turning Point. Well, not Turning Point, Unbreakable 2005. It is not Sabu versus Abyss at Turning Point 2005. It is not Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe at Lockdown 2008. Or it is not Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe at Genesis 2006. It is Triple X, consisting of Elix Skipper and Christopher Daniels, taking on America's Most Wanted, the Cowboy James Storm, and Wildcat Chris Harris from Turning Point 2004. This arguably is my favorite TNA match of all time. And, really my vast knowledge of TNA was from the mid-2000s onward when they first went to Universal Studios. I'm not really that familiar with the Asylum years, which was their weekly pay-per-views. And AMW and Triple X had wars at the Asylum. But not a lot of people talk about those matches. Everybody talks about this match that transpired at Turning Point in December of 2004. This match was absolutely phenomenal. If you want tag team wrestling at its finest, everybody points to the Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers. But if you really want straightforward, just blood battles inside of a steel cage regarding tag team wrestling, watch this match. Triple X and AMW murdered each other inside the 6 sides of steel. And of course, this match is fondly remembered with Elix Skipper going for the Hurricane Rana, walking off the top of the cage and hitting the Hurricane Rana off the top. That is what everybody remembers when it comes to this match. And that moment, like, I remember I saw this one tweet stating that, this right here blew the internet back in 2004. Because a lot of people did not see shit like that. And Elix Skipper is known for that particular spot. But another thing I wanted to point out as to why this match is so good is the sheer enthusiasm with the commentary team. The commentary team for this match was Mike Tenay and Don West. Everybody talks about how great Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler are and how great their chemistry is. And trust me, their chemistry is fantastic. But if you really want to go deep into this whole scenario, honestly, my favorite commentary team of all time, in my opinion, is Don West and Mike Tenay. Mike Tenay, of course, is the brains, and he is the play-by-play guy, and he is the brains of everything. He literally will give you a vast history of wrestling knowledge that you will literally be like, holy shit, I did not know that. Mike Tenay is so smart. He's one of my favorites. But Don West, he embodies what color commentary is. Just his sheer emotion in this match alone, when Elix Skipper walked on top of that cage and he hit that Hurricane Rana off the top of the cage, Don West was just marking the fuck out. He was screaming, "No way, you gotta be kidding me." And that's like a common quote by Mr. Don West. Or he creamed him. Don West is honestly one of my favorites, man. He got a lot of flack in those early years of TNA. But honestly, for me, I was always the biggest Don West fan. Always, always, always the biggest fan of Don West. Not only that, man, the crowd was so invested what they were watching after that spot. They even panned a shot at the crowd just like literally going on top of one another, just being brutally shocked of what they had just seen. But, of course, there were some crazy spots in the match where, you had Chris Harris being handcuffed in the ring. And after that, finally got the key. And then you had literally Christopher Daniels at the end of the match being handcuffed to the ring. And AMW going in retaliation and hitting Triple X's move, which is the Powerplex. And, finishing off Triple X because the stipulation of this match was whoever loses will never team again. A simple stipulation like that was what made this match so special. And this is the match that I recommend you guys. Triple X versus AMW in this week's Retro Match of the Week. So yeah, that was my episode 19, I should say. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with me? Episode 18 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. I definitely talked about a lot of topics, but the reason why I actually pulled out this video now is because, of course, we got SmackDown tonight, and I want to, give you guys a SmackDown review. We got Collision tomorrow, as well as we got Forbidden Door. So we got a lot of shit happening on the weekend, so that's why I'm giving you guys this video very early on. But overall, we definitely talked about a lot of things. We talked about CM Punk. We talked about all the drama going on in the realm of AEW, the apparent drama, which I do not believe whatsoever. So, yeah, I definitely had a blast, and overall, that was episode 19 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. Have me on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky Derez, signing out. I'll see you guys for SmackDown.